Welcome to my video log 2 based around skills and capacities in speed and agility tasks. The first athlete I used was a semi-professional footballer aged 23 years old. He's a rehab and S&C coach and is 12 months post ACL reconstruction. This athlete has a moderate training history. The second athlete that I will use in these videos is an older 26-year-old athlete who is a professional stroke international footballer. He has a larger training history than the first athlete, and importantly is to note that he is a goalkeeper. He is fit and healthy. The agility drill I chose to look at was the T-test. In these coming videos you see athlete 1 performing the T-test. As you can see as he performs this task although he tries to get low and power out of his turns, he struggles to keep a low centre of mass and a forward lean in doing so. These can be seen more clearly in the side videos being shown now and followed in the still frames. We attribute this to a lack of capacity in the athlete, and we also demonstrated or saw that the athlete was worse in performing off the left leg as opposed to the right leg. One of the reasons for this would be due to his lack of strength due to his recent injury in his left knee. This will be shown further in some following snapshots. In these three frames you can see that the athlete does try to get a low centre of mass, but as he follows out onto his first and his second stride, he very quickly assembles a higher upright posture that would be assimilated with high speed running as opposed to an acceleration task. Previously mentioned, we attribute this to a lack of strength. As you can see in these force velocity curves, the athlete demonstrates lower strength in his left leg as opposed to his right leg due to previous injury. This is why we attribute worse performance on the left-hand sided turns as opposed to the right-hand sided. The following are a few drills and exercises that we might have used to improve this athlete's capacities, such as squats on both double leg, a single leg press so that we can get heavier forces going through the single leg to improve that bilateral deficit that we see. And then some unilateral hops, but then we could also progress this into lateral hops to get the change of direction task that we need. As we move on to watching the second athlete perform the same task, what we notice is that this athlete, although he generates better force and better power in his curves and his turns, he stays very upright and very forward facing in both his turns in both directions. Now we attribute this to him being a keeper and the fact that he has to do a lot of lateral movement while facing forward, which you will see in some later clips. Again, as we zoom in on these movements, we see that he does stay very forward facing, he doesn't get low into his turns, and he doesn't get very good acceleration out of these tasks. These may be things we'd want to work on if this athlete needed this, but as I said, he is a goalkeeper, so we may want to avoid this due to his skills requiring him to perform a different set of tasks to this agility test. This is something we have to bear in mind when we are testing an athlete to make sure that the test is appropriate to them. Looking at these still frames, as we see, a 64-degree lean angle on both sides isn't the best for an accelerated movement. We would want them to be lower. And here we can see that he's very forward facing, not getting deep into his turns and facing the cone that he wants to accelerate out. See some more traditional training that this keeper will undertake. As we said before, he is very forward facing, but this is the method of protecting his goal and seeing what is going on in the game. He moves laterally, side to side and up and down very quickly. So therefore the T-agility test may not be the appropriate training method nor the appropriate test method for this athlete, as it may not demonstrate the actual ability he has to change direction rapidly. As you can see from this video, he has the ability to do so. With speed, first we looked at an acceleration drill. For the first athlete, here we see that he really struggles to get a horizontal lean and to get horizontal force during his movements. This causes him to come upright very quickly during his movements into his first and his second stride. Even with the drill being edited for him to get a good morning position with a forward lean at the start, he still struggles to maintain this forward posture. We attribute this lack of performance due to a capacity issue in his strength and force production. This, as we said, enables him not to be able to generate enough horizontal force to keep him above gravity, and therefore he has to come upright, as it can be seen in these still frames. The athlete does try to achieve a forward lean by compensating through the spine, but this is not optimal for the athlete. Looking at a maximal velocity running drill now, we see that the athlete is able to get over the cones and does drive his knees up. But as we slow the footage down, what we notice is that he doesn't drive his knee anywhere near high enough to achieve the optimal performance of this task. And later on in the still frames, you can see that he actually has to twist his leg slightly externally rotated or internally rotated at the hip to achieve getting over the hurdles. This is inoptimal for the athlete and can be attributed to a lack of hip flexion, but also potentially a lack of an ability to flex at the knee. Again, this may come back to the athlete's previous history of knee issues and struggling from some hip and knee flexion issues there. To improve this athlete's performance in this task, as well as the couple of drills that will be shown following this footage, we would be tempted to work on the athlete's hip flexion in a generic range of motion. This could actually be stripped back to being taken onto the bed with a physio, where we passively look to restore his range of motion and then do some drills such as the ones that follow to utilise this range of motion. The following two still frames demonstrate the turned out foot position and the lack of hip flexion in this task. To improve this athlete's performance, we need to challenge his horizontal force. So this first drill aims to do so by encouraging the athlete to drive himself horizontally, as well as getting high knee flexion into the boxes. We can alter the environment to make sure that they do get the forward lean as we put the boxes further apart. In this drill, the athlete has to lean into the wall, getting that horizontal position as well as getting that high drive knee flexion position. So it does actually work on both forms of the acceleration and the maximal speed running. So we can utilise this drill for both. The last drill that we use is a box drill that encourages really fast velocity and high hip flexion. So this drill is very good for this maximal speed running where we're struggling to get that athlete to drive the hip through. So this can be used to challenge that and to improve that. As we see the second athlete perform a similar acceleration task, starting again off the floor to try and achieve a low body position, we see again that this athlete really struggles to keep that low body position and comes upright very quickly. However, in this instance, we do tend to attribute this to a skill issue as opposed to a capacity issue. We know the athlete is very strong and very powerful. However, due to his natural playing position and the fact that he rarely has to accelerate from a low position and that he has to stay big and as a presence to protect the goal, he struggles to maintain this low position. But again, we do have to question whether this form of movement would be optimal to him. As the analysis shows, he does struggle to get that low position and comes up to a 56 degree and then to a 60 odd degree very quickly in his first couple of strides. This is suboptimal, and we can see that the athlete achieves a poor body position to try and achieve this position. As we look at the maximal speed running drill, we see that the athlete does achieve a very good upright posture, and he also gets a very nice high knee drive and brings the knee through in a very good knee flex position. This is much clearer to see when we go into the slow motion videos. Here, as I said, we start to see that the athlete gets a nice high knee drive coming well above the 90-degree angle. He also demonstrates a very good cyclic motion and brings the knee through with a good relaxed knee and thigh and gets a very good nice knee flex position. This allows him to easily cover the hurdles without having to externally rotate. Here we can see that he achieves an 86-degree flexion angle. Here are a few exercises we worked on with the athlete. The idea of these exercises were to encourage the athlete to get a higher knee drive forward and fully extend position. This would then encourage him as he goes into an acceleratory task to be able to fully extend his back leg and achieve a good forward lean. This exercise in particular encourages the athlete to go over onto their front leg, flexing across, driving the tibia forward and getting a nice forward lean position. This should then transfer into the outdoor skill, as well as using a few other exercises that we haven't videoed, but stuff that would, such as the wall drill, that would then allow him to achieve and maintain that forward lean position. Finally, this drill again just maintains his high knee position and his force in that extension position on the opposite leg. This is a motion that is used both within the accelerated phase and the high speed running phase. So to summarise, Athlete 1 demonstrated high levels of capacity issues, including force and range of motion issues. Athlete 2 demonstrated more functional skill issues due to the fact that his position does not require some of the typical agility movements associated with football, and therefore these training methods may not be appropriate for that athlete.